This is Talk Sport Extra Time. It's the 1st of July. The World Cup has only got 2 weeks left to run, believe it or not. I think there's only 9 more games left. Mr. Mike Porky Parry is here. I'm sure he's already worked that out in his computer-like brain. A very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
A very good morning to you as well, Mike. And although it's great to be here, I sometimes despair with your attitude towards right and wrong in the world. I absolutely do.
Why?
Why are you giving up on diving not being an offence in
because
football?
FIFA have already said that basically it's not enough of a breach of the fair play rules, which they have set for making sure that people play fair.
FIFA, this august body that gets everything right in football.
Well, they don't get everything right in football.
They don't get everything right,
at this present moment in time, they got Luis Suarez right. They banned him from the World Cup for doing what he did. They don't think that what Iron Robin did was that bad, obviously.
Well, I tell you what, I am beginning to despair. I don't normally despair. I'm a man of absolutely solid principle and resolute will, and the ne'er-do-gooders in life.
And hope as well, right? Hope.
And hope.
You always hope that things are going to get better.
No. I have an optimistic view of life. Of course I do. But the point is, I'm sometimes bashing my head against a brick wall in my, desperate search for honesty, justice, truth. The seeker of truth and justice has been my title for many, many years.
You heard Iron Robin there saying that he's been very honest.
Well, hang on. He would be more honest if he didn't try to cheat during football matches.
Well, yeah, but it's not really cheating. That's the point. FIFA don't regard it as cheating.
And another rung down the ladder of taking football to hell in a handcart is my old pal Ian Wright, writing his column today in a national newspaper. The headline says, "You'll never stop diving." Why won't we ever stop diving? And it starts by saying, when Iron Robin admitted he had taken a dive in Sunday's last gasp win over Mexico, it seemed the whole world was up in arms. On the one hand, there's part of me that thinks his apology was pretty magnanimous.
Magnanimous.
For apologising for cheating, because it's not something you see so often. But as for those who are calling for bans, fines, and all sorts of retrospective punishment for divers in general, that is me.
That'll be you, he's
That is the Portmeister. I'm standing on a pedestal and saying I am the only one who's seeking to clean the game up. Right, he goes on to say, it becomes more and more prevalent. I do believe you are chasing a lost cause.
Yeah, so there you have it. So that's the end of that then. You're chasing a lost cause, so forget about it. There is no debate.
Why are we chasing a lost cause?
Well, there's no debate to be had anymore.
Of course
there is simply no debate to be had. FIFA do not
people
regard...
like you want an easy life and can't be bothered to try and clean the game up.
There's nothing to do with me.
Can't be bothered to inject principles in life. Can't be bothered to stand up and say to your children, look them in the eye and say, son, daughter... No, you've got 2 sons, haven't you? 2 sons.
Oh, 3 sons, actually.
But 2 with
I can't look them all in the eye at the same time.
No, the other son you
cast... In fact, the older son I can't look in the eye either because he's about 6'3".
Yeah, and also you're casting away and he's now living in America, floating around.
Whose graduation I recently attended.
Lost in space because he's not sure where his father is on any one particular day, but that's another story. But the point I'm saying is, can you look your little boys in the eye and say, sons, on a matter of principle, I will fight for truth and justice, I will fight for a just world, I will fight to make sure that principles are the most important part of your life.
You're being ridiculously naive.
I'm not being naive.
So what principles do you support in football, then, that are currently being upheld by any professional footballer out there? Do you support shirt tugging? Do you support elbowing?
No, I don't.
Do you support time wasting?
Of course I don't.
Do you support claiming for a throw-in when it's not actually yours?
Of course I don't support any of those principles. I would like...
Well, they all go on.
I would like people to play with the sort of philosophy that people played with in the 1950s. You're going to say, oh, right, let's go back half a century or something like that.
Do you honestly not think that people cheated in the 50s? Because I bet they did.
I don't.
I bet you they did.
I don't think they did. What's that word that I'm looking for a man who plays sport because he's an amateur and he loves the sport? And what's the word I'm looking for?
An idiot.
No. The last of the old... I've forgotten the name now. And it was something I branded Brian LeBone when he sadly died a couple of years ago. Corinthians. Last of the Corinthians, okay?
They're a team in Brazil, aren't they,
yeah, they are actually, yeah. But the original word of Corinthian means, enjoying the spirit of the game rather than playing it for profit.
Yeah, well, nobody does that.
Stuff.
Nobody's done that for a very long time.
Well, people should enjoy, there should be a Corinthian spirit.
Harking back to some kind of, rosy-tinted glasses.
It's not rose-tinted glasses.
Misty-eyed kind of romantic vision of the past, which you seem to live in.
Didn't people enjoy the game far more when we knew that people like the Preston plumber, Tom Finney, were playing, and that he...
No, they didn't. Did you watch the World Cup in 1966?
Yes.
Did you remember how much Pele got a kicking?
I do.
Did you remember Ratan, the Argentinian captain, getting sent off for fighting?
Pele was kicked out of the competition altogether, and that was a disgrace, an absolute disgrace. And that's probably where it all started, you know. That's probably the first World Cup where the best player in the World Cup, Pele, who'd starred obviously in 58 and 62 in Sweden and Chile, I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was then systematically targeted by hatchetmen, mostly from Hungary, I think, wasn't it?
Well, Argentina as well.
Well, no.
I don't know if Argentina ever played them, but Argentina were hacking everybody.
Argentina didn't play Brazil. In the group games, which are played in the northwest of England, Brazil were there with Portugal. That was Eusebio, Hungary, and North Korea. Because you remember North Korea went 3-0 up against Portugal in that group. Yeah, so it was those people who were kicking him, an absolute disgrace, and it's been going downhill.
Hey, by the way,
since.
did you hear about the South Korean team when they returned home? They got pelted with toffees, which apparently in South Korea is a great insult. You know how in the Middle East, if you get pelted with shoes, it's a terrible insult. Yeah. Because they did not win a game in their group. Now, why doesn't that happen here?
Well, because...
Why don't we pelt the England team with toffees?
Well, you couldn't be bothered to go and queue up outside Luton Airport, you know, for a few hours while the plane was on its way from Manchester.
Eggs or something.
Sorry?
Or cream eggs or something.
Well, I'm not into that, to be honest. I think that's barbaric and lacking in civilization.
It's barbaric.
Hey, talking about the players coming back and all that, see old Wayne Rooney's now shot off to Las Vegas on holiday with his wife and family. They've had
all their luggage burgled.
Yeah, they got there, but their luggage didn't.
Yeah.
Apparently, it was a breakdown in the conveyor belt at Terminal 5 at Heathrow. You know, what's new? And, well, that's a bit unkind, but it's something you don't like to happen. And they get there, and 2 days later, the luggage gets there, and it's been looted. Yeah. All the luggage has been looted.
Well, this used to happen. There was a period of time at Heathrow Airport where, particularly British Airways flights, I knew people who would fly backwards and forwards from Scotland quite a lot, and they'd find something nicked out of their bag. Well, because now they've got this rule that you can't lock your suitcase unless they...
In case there's explosives in it.
In case there's explosives in it. So they're quite easily now available. There's people opening suitcases up and rifling through them. I know people have had sunglasses stolen, had perfume stolen, all sorts of stuff.
That's why it was called Thief Row. Heathrow was called Thief Row. Yeah. And it's called Thief Row because the baggage handlers in those days, and I'm not besmirching the name of any current day baggage handler, but in those days, you're absolutely right, systematically looted the bags and took whatever they wanted.
I know.
And sometimes you get there and find nothing left in your case.
Yeah. And of course, she's had a lot of criticism on social media because people said, well, you can afford to replace them. That's not the point.
Supposing there are pictures of her children or something like that.
You don't take stuff with you in order to buy new stuff when it doesn't arrive.
Of course not. No, it's an absolute disgrace. An absolute damn disgrace. And something's got to be done with it because Terminal 2's just opened at Heathrow, hasn't it? A new terminal.
I think they're calling it the Queen's Terminal.
I just don't get all this. On the one hand, there's this lobby saying we've got to close down Heathrow, move it out to the London
estuary,
to the estuary, the Thames estuary, and build a brand new airport there. Clearly, they're never going to shut down Heathrow.
No, they can't shut down Heathrow.
If you spend another couple of billion,
a fortune.
Yeah, if you spend another couple of billion quid opening a new terminal, that's Terminal 2. Terminal 5's already the biggest and best in the world, amongst the biggest and best in the world, we hope. And where else are you going to put Heathrow? Heathrow is Heathrow.
I don't think they want to shut it down. They just don't want to expand it, do they? They don't want to do another runway.
You've got to expand it. You should knock down all those houses around it, tell the people to go and push off and live somewhere else.
Well, where do you want them to live? Maybe they can move next to you.
I don't care where they live.
To Stockbroker, Surrey. How about
that? Yeah, they can come and live there.
Well, why can't they expand Gatwick up to nearer where you are?
Well, because Gatwick isn't called Heathrow, and Heathrow is the world's most famous.
Gatwick.
Yeah, Heathrow is the world's most famous airport. If we want to become the economic powerhouse we've got to become during the rest of this century, then we need a bigger and more effective and more efficient airport. As far as I'm concerned, you could clear about another 10 square miles of the area just on the southern ridge of the M25 and build another 6 runways, because that's what we need to become the biggest airport in the world.
Houses down
yes, you can knock them down. The national interest.
Because you don't live there, so you're quite happy.
I live quite near there. I live near Gatwick, actually.
That's what I'm saying. Why don't you let them expand Gatwick?
Well, because Gatwick's no good. It's called Gatwick. Heathrow's called Heathrow. It was like saying, it was the original argument about, why have you got to build a new Wembley in Wembley? Because if you built a new Wembley in the Midlands and called it Rugeley or something like that, it wouldn't be Wembley, would it? And therefore it loses 90% of its value and its charm.
I'm once again absolutely speechless at the logic of your argument, because there is no logic to it.
There is every logic to it.
It makes perfect sense to expand Gatwick. You don't want them to expand Gatwick because it might impinge on where you live.
Don't you think we need another runway at Heathrow?
I think we need another runway somewhere.
We need another runway at Heathrow.
No, because Heathrow's already, ridiculously cluttered.
Yeah,
and if you've ever flown through
down all those houses around there. If people live near an airport, that's their problem, not mine.
No, because they can't handle all the baggage.
The national interest demands we have a new runway.
Let me tell you why. We've got to stop for a minute, but let me tell you why. The problem is, it doesn't matter how quickly they get you through the terminal, how quickly they get you through passport control, no matter how quickly you get to baggage claim, the bags are still never there when you get there.
Because the airport's too small and we need another runway.
Yeah, well, the runway doesn't handle the bags, does it?
It doesn't matter if you build a new runway, you've got enough space to build a new terminal, and then you can put more luggage stuff in.
Right, I can see your logic is working out. Mr. Mike Porky Parry and myself, Mike Graham, back with loads more coming up next. This is Talk Sport Extra Time. I'm Mike Graham. He is Mike Parry. Together we are the two Mikes. There'll be yet another podcast coming out later on this afternoon after Mr. Parry has departed these parts. Now, let me just read you this from James in Aylesbury, who's texted into 81089. He says, I agree, Robin shouldn't be accused of cheating for a simple reason. Yes, he tried it on. Yes, he could have been trying to cheat. But if that's the case, every player who rolls around after a foul outside the box without a foul being made, they should be called cheats as well. Inside the box is a cheat. Outside the box, a normal foul is part of the game. Come on, you can't have a double standard.
I mean, listen, didn't you see how expansive the dive was that led to the 88th minute penalty?
Yes, I did. I thought it was a dive. Yes, I did. In fact, I said on Sports Yapper that was a dive.
It was either like a man who was jumping off a diving board into a swimming pool.
His legs went sideways, didn't they?
Exactly. Somebody
Listen,
imitating
I don't disagree that it was a dive.
So what I'm saying is, until those sort of offences, and quite obvious offences, are punished by a red card, i.e. sending off offence, and complete negation of any advantage.
Not black and white, though. That's the problem.
Advantage to the team that contains the player who's cheating. We're never going to get rid of this.
What about also? I mean, earlier in the game,
I'm amazed that Righty has said we can't
because
do anything about it.
all former forwards agree with what Robin said and what Rodney Marsh said as well. That basically, you know, they get fouled all the time in the box, and the referee never gives anything. So they have to do this in order to get some balance right. Let's talk to Justin, who's a Liverpool fan in Everton, Essex, I should say. Justin, a very good morning to you.
Yes, good morning. Great show as always.
Thank you.
I agree with the other Mike, to be honest with you.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
But how can cheating be right? I mean, at the end of the day, you're playing a sport, loads of money. How can cheating be right?
No, it's not really cheating because it's not really cheating, Justin.
Well, what is it then?
It is.
It's not. It's just using every power that you have to try and get an advantage, to try and win the game.
Utter rubbish.
How is it any different, Justin, from pretending that it's your corner when it's not?
Because at the end of the day, it comes down to skill. It shouldn't come down to cheating. Two wrongs don't make a right. You say about people like pulling down and hugging people like over the neck and whatever. It's not right. It's not right cheating in sport. I mean, I used to be quite a good snooker player, and at the end of the day, if you like braze a cue ball and that, you should like get up and say, look, I've touched the white ball, I've touched the ball. You know,
you'd never get that. You'd never get that in football. Justin, the reason why it is cheating, and the reason why Mike Graham's argument about it's just like appealing for a corner when you know it's not yours, is so ridiculous a comparison of the two. When Arjen Robben dived the other night, he absolutely and utterly put 100% of his physical and mental effort into trying to fool the referee and the officials.
He was tripped.
Yes, he wasn't tripped. He was not tripped. If anything, somebody mildly stood on his foot. He wasn't tripped.
So you think there was contact then?
You were watching the wrong incident.
So you think there was contact then?
I don't believe there was even contact. I believe that the ne'er-do-gooders who were saying, well, he definitely, somebody stood on his foot. They never stood on his foot. It was
What's a ne'er-do-gooder, by the way? We're always calling people that.
A ne'er-do-gooder is somebody like you who hopes that the forces of evil overcome the forces of good, and people like you should be wiped off the face of the earth if we want to have a civilized world.
Isn't that a ne'er-do-well then?
Well, I don't care how. I don't care.
Ne'er-do-gooder,
why are you trying to pick up on tiny little points of English grammar?
Because I just want to make sure that you're calling me by the right name.
I know exactly what I'm calling you. And I would call you several other things if we were not live on air now, and I felt the due respect for the audience.
Why don't we let Justin have a final say here? Justin, why on earth do you not realise that this is what goes on week in, week out in every single Premier League game, every single Championship game, every single game of football around the world, and you can't stop it?
I know it goes on, but we've got to stop it because it's cheating at the end of the day.
Of course it is.
It comes down to, it basically should come down to skill. You know, at the end of the day, if someone's better than you, that's fair enough. You hold your hands up and you say, well done.
Yeah.
But when you're cheating to win a game in any sport, how is that right?
No, it's not right. Justin, you sound like a man of a certain age. Do you not agree with me that there was a
how old do you think he is?
I'm not prepared to get into that. There was a much better Corinthian spirit about football, the way it was played decades ago than it is today.
Definitely, 100%.
Thank you.
Oh, right,
Thank you.
When people like Norman Hunter were playing you in and Ron Harris and people like that.
No. Chopper Harris was an honest man. He went in honestly and he went in hard. But you never saw people throw themselves around in penalty areas to deliberately deprive the opposition.
What about Francis Lee?
Of the advantage.
He used to dive into the penalty area from the halfway line.
Well, yes, but that was a different reason altogether. Franny Lee was a very good penalty taker and he wanted the opportunity to be able to score penalties.
Oh, I see. So he wasn't cheating then?
Well, no. He had a comparative reason to want to get get into that sort of thing.
I see. My lines have all gone pink here for a second. I'm not quite sure what happened there, but I've never been able to do that before.
Our computer screens have
I
gone
didn't even
pink.
know we did pink, but we'll try and get Richard, who's an Arsenal fan, on in a minute. But I think there's something wrong with my hands today. I can't. My dexterous nature seems to have left me for the moment.
What's wrong?
I feel as if I just pressed something and it just kind of pressed everything.
You have some sort of arthritis in your fingers?
No, I haven't. No.
What is it then?
I don't know what it is. It's just, but I feel sort of slightly as though I'm sort of slightly out of body.
Oh, okay. Maybe you made one of those weird meals that you make, and maybe literally...
I made a really good curry, actually, on Saturday. Did you see the picture on Twitter?
Yeah, I think I did, yeah. Maybe it's getting to you, all the spices you're putting in your body.
I don't think so. Huh? Is this guy for real, says another texter who doesn't give a name, unfortunately. He says he argues that he argues from Robin being a cheat to Heathrow Airport.
Yeah.
What a star. TalkSport should be renamed TalkSport and airport difficulties with baggage and runways. Yeah. Top class.
Well, why not? It's all, I mean, it's all part of the problem in life. That if you're a good person, if you lead what I call a Christian-led life, because I'm a Christian. No, hang on.
There's plenty of people who are not Christians.
Well, okay. Well, as long as they lead a life which is appropriate to their beliefs, right, and you know, whoever they follow in terms of spirituality, and they're honest to that spirituality.
So would you retract the Christian bit then?
Well, not necessarily, because I am a Christian. But
you might be.
Every respect for people who are Buddhists or Muslims or Hindus or whatever.
You might believe in God, but I don't think he believes in you.
Well,
when?
That was that great line, wasn't it, from when we were talking about old Rick Mail the other week. You know, the great line was, you know, are you still worshipping God? No, but I believe he's still worshipping me.
That's right.
Ha ha.
From Flashman or whatever his name was.
Flash Art.
Let's take another call. Richard's an Arsenal fan. Hello, Richard. Calling in from Heathrow, it says here.
Yeah, as it happens.
How's the baggage handling going?
Oh, I don't know. As it happens, I get a lot of work out of it. But I'll tell you one thing. Someone that's born and bred in Chiswick and comes and always lived in the local area.
Yeah.
The noise pollution, forget about knocking down houses and things like that. The noise pollution drives people insane. And that's all I want to say about Heathrow. That's not what I phoned up about.
Right, go on.
What do you want to say, Richard?
Well, I want to talk about the so-called cheating, about the diving and so on and so forth. And, you know, in my ideas, you can't get a little bit pregnant. First of all, if anybody was really serious about wanting to stop diving in the Premiership or UEFA or FIFA, retrospective action would put a stop to it, and so would video technology. But also, when you talk about cheating, which is basically what you're talking about, based on cheating, Stoke would never get a game. Have you ever watched them defend the corner? I mean, it's like Strictly Come Dancing.
Yeah, no,
every defender,
I totally agree.
Every defender has got, you know, you see it. I see it at the Arsenal. I go to the Arsenal.
They pull shirts and they pull shorts and they hang on to people and they drape their arms over their shoulders.
But going back to the old Corinthian thing that you were talking about, the difference between football then and football now is that they didn't have Sky looking up their nostrils with a camera in every corner of the ground.
I'm sure it's not true that there wasn't like gamesmanship going on.
But hang on, Rich. The only thing that cameras do is they pick up on cheating. They do not pick up on the good things in football. They do not pick up on the Corinthian spirit. They do not pick up on the gladness of the heart. The gladness of the heart in playing the game according to the laws.
This is not like some football match in the inn of the sixth happiness we're talking about here. This is professional football.
But unless I stand four square like Stonewall Jackson against the creeping
rubbish,
against the creeping cheating, cynicism and sheer corruption within the game, then if I don't stand up, who's going to?
Well, if you do stand up, nobody will notice anyway. What do you reckon, Richard?
Well, I don't know.
A cheap jibe.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether the top of it he was talking about the South Koreans got pelted with, but he isn't talking more of it than they got pelted at the South Korean team. Never heard such rubbish in my life.
Never heard such rubbish in his life.
If I could just say quickly that, of course there's cheating in the game, and of course we don't want to see the Suarez's, and we don't want to see... Listen, they ruined Arsenal twice, Bayern Munich, with their diving and their antics. I want to see it cut out as much as the next man, but I want to see it done properly. And what I'd like to see is video technology brought in, retrospective action against divers, and that will cut it out.
I totally agree. I totally agree.
You won't have to get on your soapbox, and we won't have to listen to any more topics.
Very, very well said, Richard. The trouble is, it's not that simple.
I mean, Richard started his talk with us by emphasising that he comes from Chiswick. It's near Heathrow.
Yeah, and he says the noise pollution drives people mad.
Clearly, Richard, you are a victim of that noise pollution. I feel sorry for you, mate. We'll try and get you some help, but thank you for the call anyway.
Jim from from London has texted in. He says, how can Porky talk about cheating? He's cheated his way through life. I remember the darts match he cheated in to beat you, MG. He's a cheating little dwarf, which is a bit harsh. I wouldn't normally say that.
Thank you.
But I've just read it
What
out.
darts match?
And you remember you cheated in that golf game we had as well, that mini golf game in the centre of London. Let's have a word with Sean, who's down in Brisbane, Australia. Sean, very good morning to you.
Good day, fellas. How you doing?
Yeah, pretty good indeed, Sean. Good to hear from you.
Yes, indeed. I just wanted to all this Corinthian spirit, and I understand exactly what you're saying, but don't forget Francis Lee, his nickname was Lee One Pen.
Yes, okay. I know, I get the joke, and I just said to you...
Rodney Marsh was well known for clipping his own heels as he went into the box.
Well, Rodney Marsh was on a few minutes ago on this very show, banging the same old drum about maximum cheating should be allowed and maximum advantage to forward should be allowed. And, I get sick and tired and fed up of these people trying to make out that, they're the only people who understand the psychology of football. And people like me, who's trying to stand up for the goodness in football and the goodness in life, are always put down as naive mamby-pambies, who shouldn't be listened to.
That's correct.
I think there's two sides to the argument here in the fact that I agree with both sides of the coin, but what you got to understand is Michael Owen and Robbie Fowler were quoted years ago as saying, when you're running full pelt with a ball, it only takes the slightest contact to send you down.
Well, especially for Michael Owen, he got the slightest contact even when there wasn't much.
Yeah. Hang on, Sean. How fast was Arjen Robben going when he was stood dead still in the penalty area?
It's a good point, I have to say.
The only thing missing was a pike underneath his arm.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I mean, blimey, I tell you something. You could take.
Would you? But would you?
Hang on, let me finish, please. You could take Arjen Robben's leap off the ground there, Sean, right? And then with video technology, isolate it, put a diving board underneath him and a swimming pool beneath that, and it would be a fantastic swallow dive because that's exactly what it was. It was so cynical. And the thing is, he knew he was going to get away with it because he knew the FIFA authorities are too damn weak to do anything about it.
They don't think it's unfair.
Sorry?
They don't
think it's unfair.
Fontaine, to be honest with you.
They've issued a statement.
I was thinking more Margot Fontaine.
Yeah, it was like Margot Fontaine, you're right. But they've issued a statement tonight, FIFA, saying that... What have they said? Come on, you've got it there in front of you.
I haven't got it in front of me, but they're saying basically that it's not something that they consider serious enough as a breach of the fair play rules of football. Because they were asked, Sean, listen, thanks very much for your call, we've got to go. They don't believe that it's in the same category as Suarez. It's not in the same category at all. Oh, here it is here. Simulation is not something we want to see on the field of play, say FIFA, but the referees are trained to identify these simulations and punish them by showing yellow cards. The disciplinary committee will look into serious infringements. We appeal to the spirit of fair play, which is the overarching message we have. So as far as they're concerned, the overarching message of fair play has not been interrupted by Arjen Robben. And that, in the end, is all you need to know, isn't it?
No. Why just because they can't be bothered to crack down on the corruption of the laws of their own game, why should I suddenly decide to shut my own mouth?
Well, you don't have to shut your mouth, but would you concede that the defender from Mexico was in the wrong by putting his foot there, which gave Arjen Robben the opportunity to make it look as if he was being tripped over?
Not at all. Why defenders have to think, I mustn't put my foot there, he might jump over it? That's a rubbish way to go about the argument. Utter rubbish, Mike, I'm telling you. Complete piffle and nonsense.
08717 22
Who else uses the word piffle on this show?
Well, Boris Johnson normally uses it.
He does, inverted piffle.
Yeah, you've nicked it from him. This is TalkSport Extra Time. You just interrupted the phone number. 08717 22 33 is the number. We'll be back shortly. Coming up next, it's the news headlines. This is TalkSport's Extra Time. I'm Mike Graham. That's something like the Skids, isn't it?
Skids? What's that all about?
Temple Tudor, that's right.
Ten-pole Tudor. What are we playing that for?
Because it's a song about battles, and you're going to talk about the Battle of
Right,
Bannockburn.
okay, yeah. Talking about music, by the way, old Dolly Parton was on at Glastonbury, okay?
Yeah, we're going to talk about Dolly Parton
That's
in a minute.
all gone, yeah, well, I'm going to talk to you about that because,
Right, well, don't jump the
I think
gun. We're going to talk about
I think
Dolly
she's a
Parton
fantastic artist and all that, but I've got a few things to say about that.
Oh, you like Dolly Parton, yeah. When we play the Dolly Parton music, you can talk about Dolly Parton.
Okay, well, you're playing
Let me just
music
read
then.
you a couple of tweets here that I've got in. One from Lee, who sent this to @IROMG. You can send them to @Mike Parry 8 and @TS Extra Time. He says, Porky is completely barking mad. They should knock his house down, preferably with him in it, and then build a new runway, which I rather like. And James says, why don't you get a little suitcase and put Porky in it and fly him out of the country to shut him up because he's talking utter nonsense.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
well, that's
that was
very
good,
kind of you.
Those are two of the highlights.
How about this? Nev, MUFC. So this guy's a proper Manchester United fan. I'm just trying to think. Manchester United is not very far from Manchester Airport, actually, if you go out that way towards...
Well, I guess it wouldn't be. That's why the airport in Manchester is quite near Manchester, isn't it?
Towards the Chester
Really?
Road. But anyway, he says, right, Mike, billions of pounds of incoming investment will be generated if Heathrow were bigger. Hang on. This light's
Can you
gone
not
on
read
it.
a tweet?
Hang on.
A simple thing to do is to read out a message on your phone.
The light went off. It would be a greater draw for business than any EU slight advantage. Normally I'd be with Mike. That's from Nev. Scott says...
It doesn't make any sense.
Hang on. It does. He's saying that it would be a great draw for business, a bigger draw for business than any slight advantage we have of being inside the EU. Billions of pounds of incoming investments if we had a bigger Heathrow airport. He says also... I am dead right. Sorry, that's me, Porky. No. He says Mike Parry.
Why can you not just read out a message?
Hang on. He says Mike Parry 8 is dead right. We need at least 2 extra runways at Heathrow. Otherwise, Paris, Schiphol, and Dubai will take 200,000 jobs out of this country.
Rubbish.
This boy knows what he's talking about. Knows what he's
How
talking
does he
about.
figure that out then? Why are people going to fly to Dubai when they want to fly to London?
And then Mickey says, to us, to you, to IRMG and to Mike Parry 8, for once I'm with Porky on this one. I must be losing it. No, you're not losing it. I am the secret truth and justice and the voice of reason. Don't worry about it. That's great. Like all these responses. Thank you very much
But none
indeed.
of those actually support your actual theory about either cheating or about Heathrow. So, I mean, I really don't know.
What's this one here? This is a great one here. Look at this. Got to agree with at IRMG tonight. After all, he's most certainly an authority on cheating, and that one's for my benefit. Yes, you're absolutely right. He is an absolute expert on cheating. He's been cheating all his life. He's been cheating on partners. He's been cheating on familial relationships.
Maybe you should just practice reading things off a screen before you come in next time.
What?
Why don't you just try practising reading things off a screen?
It's not a screen. The point is, my new phone, it has a light that keeps flashing on and off. And when I lose it, I press the wrong button and it disappears. And then I have to recover it. One here from Justin.
You know, they have what they call Silver Surfer education classes for older people who don't understand the internet.
I wouldn't know.
I think you should go and have one.
I wouldn't know, mate.
You go and get a course of 12 lessons. You might even meet the next Mrs. Parry.
In a couple of decades when I'm... see, it's gone dark
someone
again
with a
now.
bus pass.
And if I press this button to make it light, it disappears. Anyway, I can just about... Oh, no, I can't see it. It's gone off.
Well, we haven't got enough time for you to read any more of them.
Just one here. This is great.
This is
from a guy called Justin.
Is it?
But his surname is Credible, so just incredible.
Oh,
it's quite.
I think that's his real name.
And he says, "Don't put up with any anti-Scottish nonsense from Porky. If he was at Bannockburn, he would have been speared within the first 10 seconds."
Yeah. So what is all this nonsense about Bannockburn?
Well,
why have you suddenly, on the 700th anniversary of the Battle of Bannockburn, which is very clearly a battle that did in fact take place, why have you got this bizarre theory that never took place?
Look, it's a warlike weekend. The point is, we are commemorating the 100th anniversary of the outbreak of the First World War.
Yes.
That was a young chap, 19-year-old Gavrilo Princip, because I've studied all that, and he shot the Archduke Franz Ferdinand, and that started the First World War, so that's something that we've all been deeply involved in.
You see that on the BBC, they've been debating whether, in fact, it was the First World War, because, they're coming at it from this, the usual BBC kind of culturally kind of,
they think it was?
Well, because they're saying, well, actually, were all parts of the world involved in it?
Well, just a bit. America was, and they were the new world at the time.
But you know what the BBC are like. They're saying, that other parts of the world weren't involved. China wasn't involved. And,
Australia and New Zealand were involved. That's the other end of the earth as well.
Because they were kind of Commonwealth countries, weren't they?
Ridiculous, yeah. But anyway, point of the story is, it also coincides with the 700th anniversary of Bannockburn.
Yeah.
Now, it's all very well you saying nonsense and all that. I am a bit of a student of battles in this country anyway, because I've been looking at them for a long time, right?
I feel another quiz coming on Thursday.
No, you can't quiz me on everything that I'm a student on, Mike. You'd run out of subjects, honest to God.
No, we haven't run out of them yet.
There are so many of them. Now, what I was going to say is, I watched this brilliant documentary, part one of documentary, on Sunday, and I think the guy's name is Neil Oliver. Is he the guy who does Coast?
He does Coast, yeah.
Right, he's very good.
Do you like him? I find him intensely irritating.
No, I don't. He's a Scots fella, and he's a professional archaeologist.
Yeah.
And he goes around the country.
He's got very long hair. I'm surprised you like
He's got long hair, and he
you don't like people with long hair.
Do you know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of...
Sandy Shaw.
No, not Sandy Shaw. He reminds me of... is his name Khan, the guy in Kung Fu, wanders around the earth?
Oh, David Carradine.
People. David Carradine, yeah.
But he didn't have any hair.
No, he did. He had long flowing hair in Khan. No, in, what was it called? Kung Fu.
Kung Fu.
And what was the character called? Was it Khan?
No, I think it was Khan.
Khan, yeah, Khan. And he was the one who...
No, Kane, wasn't it?
Kane.
That's
it, yeah.
That was Star Trek, The Wrath of Khan.
Okay.
Or The Wrath of Kane.
So, I mean, you remember him in the temple, you know, when the big Buddha guy was there, you know, and it's...
When he was learning, that was when he had shaven head.
That's when he had shaven head, and it was, you know, grasshopper. You go around world and you convert people till they think like us. You know, it was that sort of thing.
Yeah,
wasn't
he ever said those words, actually. Not in that voice, anyway.
But it was that sort of thing, wasn't it? Yeah. You know. So Khan goes off to America. Kane goes off to America and starts traipsing around the world with this bag over his shoulder and starts trying to convert people.
Do you remember the theme tune from that?
Or something like that.
Well, you've just ruined it.
Yeah, but anyway, well, go on, you hum it then. Go on.
That was what it was.
I don't recognise that one. That
It used to be on after the big match on a Sunday.
Oh, did
That's
it?
the reason I used to watch it.
Sounds like a load of drivel, that. But anyway,
Carradine.
The point of my story is I could never work out who Kane was trying to convert people
He wasn't
to
trying
follow.
to convert anyone. He was a guy trying to go through the world without any kind of problems, and he kept finding problems everywhere he went because he was the sort of strong, silent type.
What was he doing, wandering the world? Why was he wandering the world?
Well, because he was in search of happiness.
In search of happiness? Well, why didn't he stay back in his temple and do a bit of
Perhaps he'd been through Heathrow.
Grasshopper.
Perhaps he'd been through Heathrow and he was looking for his bags.
Well, I mean, that to me is the most selfish form of existence anyway.
What?
I go search world for happiness. I mean, you know, happiness should be you take joy in praising your God or
You become very religious suddenly.
No, I haven't become religious. Anyway, we weren't talking about him. We were talking about Neil Oliver.
And Bannockburn.
Yeah, well, so he goes and does this part in Bannockburn. Right, he only has to hire... What's this? Oh, yeah, Kane, yeah.
But to understand the questions.
Yeah, you need the answers to understand the questions.
Let me think this one through. You need the answers to understand the questions. Well, I can understand
there's the theme tune, you see? Exactly as I sang it.
Didn't sound like what you were humming anyway. And you've got distorted vocal cords because you smoke 40 fags a day. But no, getting back to Neil Oliver. Now,
it's
an absolute fact.
Yeah.
Nobody has a clue where the Bannockburn battle was fought. I'm telling you, why then did these guys make this program have to hire a helicopter and fly around 50 miles north and south of Stirling to try and find a battlefield?
Because they specialise in this now. They're doing the same thing with the Battle of Hastings. They did the same show on the Battle of Hastings, saying that it didn't actually take place where they think it took place. It took place somewhere else.
Why have no artefacts from the Battle of Bannockburn ever been found?
That's not true either.
Not one single arrowhead.
Not true.
Not one single spear. Not one single gun or bullet or anything has ever been found.
Given the Scots were fighting, I imagine there were a few of those. We'll have more of that coming up next.
Nothing's ever been found.
We'll try and get some more Bannockburn information out of Porky before he goes off on a tangent about Kung Fu. We are the two Mikes.
Team Talksport are the boys from Brazil.
100% puro, uncut World Cup coverage live from South America.
On Talksport.
Islands in the stream, that is what we are. No one in between. How can we be wrong? Sail away with me to another world, and we rely on each other.
We were talking about Dolly Parton a little bit earlier. I'm Mike Graham. He is Mike Parry. Do I take it then that you actually watched Glastonbury for the first time in your life?
No, but I do
Why didn't you watch Dolly Parton at Glastonbury if you like her?
I couldn't be bothered sitting up to watch it. I don't like live music anyway. It never sounds like the studio version. Now, that was Islands in the Stream, which I told you. By the way, let's just finish on Bannockburn,
Yeah,
okay?
all right.
The reason I cast doubt on it is no artefacts have ever been found. Nobody knows where the battlefield is. And the only 4 versions of the Battle of Bannockburn 7 years ago were all written by Scotsmen. no version of what happened at Bannockburn has ever been written by an Englishman.
That's because they lost.
One Englishman
That's because they lost.
One Englishman was taken into captivity by the Scots and stayed in Scotland for the rest of his life.
There's some
20
very,
years.
so-called English captives, right?
Yeah.
They all had
Yeah.
Norman names.
Yeah, and
Did you know that?
Well, some of them did, and the point is,
Sir Henry de Bohun
yeah,
was one of the guys that died.
They wrote versions of it. It was all from a Scottish point of view. So all I'm saying is, all those maniacs.
What about Sir Marmaduke Twang?
Yeah,
Who was
okay.
he?
Well, I don't know.
Well,
But
why don't you know? You said you're an expert.
I am an expert, but I don't know the name of every prisoner, do I?
Thomas de Berkeley.
What I was going to say to you was, all those maniacs in America said, well, we never landed on the moon.
Sir Ingram de Umfraville. Doesn't sound very English, does it?
Of course we landed on the moon, but I think there's a better chance that the Battle of Bannockburn never happened.
Rubbish.
I don't think it ever happened.
There's a visitor centre and there's a battlefield.
Yeah.
And you can go and visit it just outside of Stirling.
Yeah, that makes a lot of money for the tourism industry, and that's fine. But Edward II, I think he just gave up and said, I can't be bothered. I'm not sure he ever raised an army and took it to Scotland. And I think the Scots, it's propaganda that they bashed up the English at Bannockburn. I don't think they ever did. How do we know a battle ever took place? We just don't.
How do you know any battle
we've got
ever
no
took place?
pictures of it. Well, because down at Hastings,
I
as
think
you're talking
Reuters were
about,
covering something else at the time.
hang on, down at Hastings you're talking about, there are artefacts from the battle scene, from the battleground, all
Not
that
very
kind of
many,
stuff.
actually.
But there are some. And also, what about the Bayeux Tapestry?
What about it?
Well, somebody didn't make it up, did they?
Well, of course they did.
No, they
The
didn't.
Bayeux Tapestry's not real. The
course
Bayeux
it's
Tapestry has got all sorts of representations of things that didn't happen, portraying the guy who commissioned it, who was a wealthy French nobleman, who decided that it would be a great idea to have himself in this massive, great big long tapestry, which
The
supposedly
Battle of
depicted him
Hastings is
being very brave.
depicted in the Bayeux Tapestry.
Yeah, I know, but in the
because
Bayeux
there's a
yes.
picture of Harold lying back with an arrow going
Yeah, I
into
know
his
that,
eye.
but people are already disputing that possibly as the way he died in the first place. Secondly,
That's been
the guy-
disputed for 1,000
yeah,
years.
exactly. But the guy who actually commissioned the Bayeux Tapestry, who was, as I say, this French nobleman, wanted to put himself in it as if he was this great hero.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
wasn't. So actually, it's about as fictional as most of the nonsense you come out with.
No, it's not. We all know it happened because of that, and we all know that Henry V and Agincourt all happened. We know that.
Well,
There
because
are
Shakespeare
artifacts.
wrote about it.
And yeah, largely because Shakespeare wrote it.
Right.
Shakespeare never wrote a play about Bannockburn.
So,
and that's
does
probably...
that mean Hamlet's a true story as well?
No, of course it doesn't.
Oh,
but it means
just checking.
it means it's steeped in Scottish history, of which we can.
What
check.
about Macbeth?
But we can... Macbeth. The kings of Scotland, that's all true.
So that's true then.
The island
so
of
Macbeth is true.
Island of Iona,
The Battle of
I didn't
Bannockburn
say
isn't.
Macbeth was true. I said it's based on real Scottish heraldry. Whereas Bannockburn, in my view, Bannockburn could have been no more than a skirmish of a
Maybe
few
you
people.
don't really exist, and I'm just sitting here talking
me.
to some kind of imaginary person
I'm not-
who's gone bonkers.
No, I'm not going on because you cannot appreciate. Don't you agree with me? There's very little evidence that Bannockburn ever took place.
No, I don't agree with you at
Well,
all.
what evidence is there? Then?
There's a visitor centre.
Oh, okay, well, there's a visitor centre at
Well, have you
Stonehenge.
been to- yeah.
It doesn't mean
Well,
that...
doesn't that exist either?
It doesn't mean that Martians came down and put those stones where Stonehenge is. It doesn't mean that all these Welsh guru wizards, got that stone to float from Wales into Wiltshire, where it is now.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it couldn't
don't
have floated
talk
all the
nonsense.
way there, could it?
Now, listen, we're talking about Dolly Parton,
That's
right?
unbelievable.
Talking about Dolly Parton.
That is really unbelievable.
What is unbelievable?
You actually don't believe that Bannockburn ever happened.
I'm saying there is very little evidence, if any evidence at all, that Bannockburn ever happened. There's no bones of dead horses on a battlefield. There aren't. There's no cannon fire. There's no.
They didn't have cannons. It was 1314 or something.
They had rock throwing machines, and they've never found a rock throw. No, they did. And they've never
throwing machine.
Yeah, they've never found a rock throwing
Maybe
machine.
David Carradine was there.
Sorry,
No,
don't be
wandering,
ridiculous.
looking for
Don't be-
happiness.
Don't be ridiculous. Don't you think it's a bit odd that one of the most celebrated battles in the history of Britain, there simply is no physical evidence it ever took place? I mean, if you don't think that's mad and weird, then you're weird.
Well, I don't accept the
I
fact
bet you
that
other
there isn't-
people out there listening now
I
are
don't
agreeing
accept,
with me
I
100%.
don't accept I'll tell you the one thing that people are disputing, and that is that the site where the visitor centre currently is, and the battlefield which they depict, they're not sure that that's actually the right place. But I don't think there's anybody who's got half a brain that doesn't think it actually happened.
How come we've got evidence that dinosaurs roamed the Earth millions and millions of years ago, but we've got no evidence of a battle that took place
Well, it's not that
in
there's no
one of the
evidence.
most public areas of Britain, that's the border between England and Scotland, only 700 years ago?
Well, it's
How
not-
come there's no evidence?
It's not. It's near Stirling it took place.
Yeah, well, that's right, but that's
Nowhere
well,
near the border.
Of course it is. It's very near the border as it was in those days, because what it's supposed to have done is Stirling Castle was supposed, because there weren't many bridges over the River Forth in those days, was the only route through England into Scotland and then to the Highlands and Islands.
I see.
It was the border.
Right.
It was the border. And
Have you got any
yet-
evidence of that?
I've got plenty
Why
of
isn't there any
evidence.
evidence of border guards' hats, or border guards,
Because of-
jumpers, or border
well,
guards,
because
passport control?
Because there was no EU in those days, and we didn't have tariffs on borders. You fool!
I see.
You idiot! Do you think customs officers stood in Europe?
Package handlers. What about them? The evidence of them?
On the border between France and Prussia? Don't be ridiculous. You're mad. But listen, Mike, you're not taking this seriously because you simply haven't got the mental capacity
I've been, unlike
to challenge what I'm saying.
Unlike you, I've been to the visitor centre at Bannockburn.
and
Okay.
so what?
And I'm pretty sure.
So what?
I'm pretty sure that in that visitor centre they do have some artefacts. So I don't think
They
you're
don't.
entirely
They
correct
don't.
about that.
They don't have any.
Have you been there?
Sorry.
Have you been there?
No, I haven't been
Right.
there.
So how do you know then?
Because I've researched it, and if
Really?
they can't find the battlefield, how can they find any artifacts from the battle? I mean, that's all I'm saying. I'm being logical, and you are just being airy-fairy. I'm an adopted Scotsman.
Like you, I am surprised that they haven't found evidence of rock-throwing machines.
Thank you.
But I'm going to go and research this further, and on Thursday, I will come back to you with some answers on this.
I don't think you will, because if there were any answers, you'd have known them by now. You're supposed to know a bit about the heritage of your father's country,
really, no.
but you seem to know nothing. And anyway, look, I'm not going to be ridiculed here. I'm not going to talk about it
I'm afraid
anymore.
you are.
I have put my point of view
talk about
forward.
Dolly Parton instead.
I bet you the listeners will agree with me. Dolly Parton now is Ireland's in the stream.
Yes.
Very good and all that. Top act at Glastonbury. But I want to know this, Mike. I want to know this. What class of person goes to Glastonbury? Because years ago, when Glastonbury was up and all that...
The middle class, I think you'll find.
No, wasn't it actually for, rebels and rock rebels and all that?
Yeah, but they were all middle class rock rebels,
And
weren't
wouldn't Dolly Parton have seemed to have been a bit of a joke to have
Yes.
turned up at a rock festival?
Well, yes, but I mean, that's what Glastonbury has now become. Glastonbury is now the biggest outdoor festival in the entire world. I mean, basically everybody who is anybody in the world of entertainment has played there at one point. I mean, Bruce Forsyth, I think, was there last year.
Rolling Stones have been there.
Well, the Rolling Stones you might expect. I'm saying Bruce Forsyth because you wouldn't expect Bruce Forsyth to be
Well,
there.
that's
Bruce
what I'm
Forsyth
saying.
was there doing some
All
crooning.
sorts of very sort of alternative type acts, for want of a better word.
But now Glastonbury has become it's become quite mainstream. In fact, the organiser of it said that he believes the one in 2020 will be the last ever one. He's gonna
Exactly.
He's going to stop doing it.
Why did he say that?
Well, I think he's just one of these guys that he thinks enough is enough, and I think he probably believes it's got too big. I mean, it used to be a very, very alternative kind of, small
Do you know how
festival.
much you paid in the first one?
No.
Only... You didn't pay anything if you're a member of CND.
Really?
Yeah. If you could prove you're a member of CND, you didn't pay anything. It was free. In a field, a farmer's field, which is where it still is now.
Yeah.
But of course, it's, a million times the size. Yeah, absolutely right, yeah. Well, look, I'm sure it's great and I'm sure people love it. It's going to take 6 weeks to clear up the rubbish on the site.
Yeah.
6 weeks.
Well, that provides a lot of local employment, I would imagine.
Well, it probably does and all that.
So
but
what's wrong with that then?
Well, I
You're
just
against
think,
that.
no, I'm not against it. I just think that
Maybe they should leave it there so that people can discover it in centuries to come, so that they can say this is where the Glastonbury
there
Festival
is
used to be
no
held.
doubt, Mike. There is no doubt. You're an intelligent man. You'll agree with what I'm going to say. There's no doubt that these sort of huge rock festivals and all that are the opium of the masses, aren't they? They're the opium of the masses in the same way that communism called religion the opium of the masses, okay? It's exactly the same thing. It's the brainwashing thing, isn't it? Get everybody in the same place at the same time.
No,
give
not
them
at
the
all.
same message, and they'll start to believe.
Well, what is the same message? How is Dolly Parton and Kasabian and Metallica and, all sorts of other bands giving the same... How are they all giving the same message?
It takes people's mind off the real problems in the world, and they get deluded for
Most
a few
of the people
days.
at Glastonbury haven't got any real problems.
Well, of course they have. Of course they have. We've all got problems.
It's the place where most middle-class people go. It's singly, to hang out with each other and to be part of Middle England.
You see, that's a cop-out for me. That's a cop-out for me. Part of my responsibility of being a member of responsible society is to worry and dwell on world's problems.
Really?
So that I can help in some way to solve them. For instance, I don't think we should take our mind off the moment, off the fact that at the moment, the Middle East is in turmoil. Now, that could ruin all our lives.
Well, you think we should cancel Glastonbury on that basis?
Well, no, I'm not saying that. What I'm
Might as
saying
well
is...
cancel the World Cup, then.
Shouldn't we take a responsible attitude towards the world's problems and start thinking a bit more deeply about them? People like
you can do that if you wish.
People like you will just say, oh, I don't care about the Middle East, it's a long way away and, it doesn't bother me. Of course it bothers you.
It's not a question of that.
And it should bother you. It bothers me. I've worked in the Middle
why
East.
does it bother
you
you?
worked in the Balkans when that was falling apart. Look how that's affected you.
How has it affected me? It hasn't affected me.
Your attitude to life has changed quite dramatically from those days. You now feel that you do have, you are
I
a
must say,
type...
I did enjoy, I don't know if you heard, did you hear Esmir Begovic on the breakfast show? Because you were on the breakfast show yesterday. Esmir Begovic.
Esmir Begovic.
You don't know who that is?
No.
He's a Stoke goalkeeper.
Oh, of course he is, yeah. I was on the breakfast show yesterday. Yeah, he's a good chap.
And also Bosnia-Herzegovina goalkeeper, right?
Yeah.
And Neil Warlock and Alan Brazil were interviewing him, and they said, it's quite a young country, yours, isn't it? How's the football development going? And I just sort of had a wry smile listening to this guy talking about, the country only being 20 years years old. You know, 20 years ago, people were killing each other.
Yeah.
And they're asking him about how the football development was going.
Yeah, I know. It's
So that's, you know, maybe you're right.
That
Do
could
you think
be
they should have
described
asked him a more serious question?
could be described as somewhat shallow. You could say, you know, how is the political framework of that part of the world holding up?
Yeah.
Which is what we should really be interested in.
Yes.
Football is really a minor issue compared
I mean, they
to
used
that.
to shoot people walking across the street in Sarajevo when I was there.
Well, remember when we worked at the Express, we had, oh, God rest his soul, he's dead now, Danny and... Remember, he was a foreign
Welbeck.
No. Danny
McGrory.
Danny McGrory, foreign
Yes.
correspondent, used to travel the world with John, who was an award-winning photographer.
Yeah.
John, do you remember his name?
Yeah, no.
No, I can't know. But I sent them out there once, and, you know, we issued them...
John Downing.
John Downing, that's right, award-winning photographer, and Danny...
McGrory, I just gave
I'm
his
sorry.
name.
Yeah. No, he's a friend of mine, Danny.
For heaven's sake.
God rest his soul. He died suddenly of a heart attack or something at the height of his powers. He'd moved on to the Times by then, was a world travel...
What's the story you're going to
Well,
tell me?
that's what I'm saying is, before the guys went out there, we had to issue them with all sorts of bulletproof jackets,
Yeah.
helmets...
Yeah, I know, I was there. I had one as well.
Armoured
helmet.
cars, when they got there, to travel around
No,
in,
very
all that kind of
unfortunate.
stuff, you know?
When I left the Express,
Yeah.
they had a picture of me with wearing the helmet on. And
Oh, I'd love to see that.
Have you not seen? They did me a front page. You know what the headline was?
No.
Mr. Blobby goes to war.
Well, that suits perfectly. That is
Which I thought was a bit harsh.
absolutely apt, because I tell you what, mate, if they bought you an armoured car to keep you protected in the Balkans, when the Balkans was in flames, that would have been the most expensive armoured car in history,
Well, actually,
because it would
unfortunately, the
needed
Express
to
was-
have been the size of a Sherman tank.
Well, unfortunately, I used to have to hitch a lift in the Telegraph's armoured car because the Express were too cheap to buy one.
Oh, right.
Because
Well,
you know how much an armoured Land Rover costs.
Did you bust their suspension when you got in the
No,
back?
I didn't actually.
I
But
like
people
that.
used to
You see
shoot
the
at
image,
us.
folks? You
Well,
see
I'm
the
glad-
image?
Well, I'm glad you think it's funny,
Oh,
because
my-
people used to shoot at us.
Oh, my, get in the back of this Land Rover.
And when we
and
were
a
inside
boom.
it, the guy who was driving it said, you know that actually, you know, they call this a bulletproof Land Rover. If they fire anything bigger than a 200mm shell, actually the thing will be blown to smithereens.
Okay,
so don't sit here thinking you're very safe.
So it wasn't really bulletproof.
And I said, well, what's the point of armour plating it then? He said, well, you can't really armour plate it to the point where you can protect it for everything.
That would be too heavy.
So all it can do is armour plate it so if somebody shoots a pistol, basically, then it won't pierce it. But anything bigger than that, and you'll be dead.
Yeah, well...
So thanks for mocking me for my time in the war zone.
No, not mocking you at all, Mike. I think you would have led a charmed and privileged life, and bullets would have bounced off you.
That's probably true. Mike Porky Parry, thank you very much indeed for your appearance. As ever, we'll be back with Mr. Parry on Thursday night.